This video is going to be slightly different to my previous videos that I've done on this channel. I think in my past three, I've been very factual and haven't strayed off my script too much. Whereas today I do want to maybe express my personality somewhat, if I do have a personality, and talk about why I go to the gym and why I try to optimize my health. Now, here's a little backstory of my journey with fitness. So, at school, I was a competitive rower. So, I don't know if you know what the schedule of a rower is like. It is quite intense. I would say around 15 hours a week for 3-4 years. So, that planted a seed in my head that made me fall in love with looking after my health and wanting to maximize and optimize my physical performance with the one goal of being as good at rowing as I possibly could. And so after a lockdown and then a couple attempts to get back into the rowing grind, my mindset just wasn't the same anymore. I did change. Lockdown, for someone especially my age, I was 15 then. No, 16. So as a 16-year-old, going through lockdown and spending a lot of time on your own, I don't know what it did to me personally, but I'm sure I'm on a very different route to what I would have been if COVID didn't happen. And this is not me complaining, I'm a different person. So after COVID, I sort of became a gym bro, and all I did was just gym. And I have this friend. He's really, really big. As a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, he was absolutely huge. So me and him, I was really inspired by him, and me and him trained most mornings before school, and that sort of led me to pretty extensive growth in a very short amount of time with bodybuilding, I want to say. And so I did that. Then last year when I started out at university, that's when my view on my health did change quite a bit. I realized that just trying to get as big as I could wasn't as fulfilling as I thought it might be. As you know, there'll be times when I'll be running up some stairs and then just be out of breath, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Back when I used to row, I was probably the most fit I'd ever been, and probably one of the fittest I will ever be in my life. And I sort of was a bit embarrassed that a 15-year-old kid that I was would always be better than what I currently am doing. So this led to a little bit of a shift in my mindset, and I started to reintroduce cardio. So with 3 years out of doing any sort of cardio, which is pretty embarrassing, I was pretty horrific to start off with. And so last year around March time, I did start to go on runs and sort of balance out my, fitness in some aspects as much as I could. What's tough with, being really competitive as a youngster is that I was always comparing myself to how I was when I was obviously a lot smaller, very skinny, but extremely, extremely fit. And so all the times that I did when I was running as a much bulkier lad just made me feel really pathetic and useless. But I sort of knew that if I stuck with it, I might be able to achieve something that for my size is decently okay. So this is what got me into Andrew Huberman. So around probably same time, March, is when I first found out about Huberman. I had been a bit of a delinquent for the first term of uni, going out drinking. I was never a big fan of drinking, but I did do that as I felt that was like the normal thing to do once you reach university. And I didn't actually even drink that much relative to some friends. I was going out most once a week, and then on a few crazy weeks I would go out more than once. But I had friends that were out 4 days a week, which I honestly don't know how that's. I would literally just collapse and fall ill and die. I was going on runs. I really enjoyed the watt bike, and my growth was tough and slow, but it was really, really fun, and I sort of fell in love with doing cardio. That sort of idea of falling in love with doing cardio again just reminded me so much of the times when I used to row, and how rowing just made me really fall in love with fitness. And now, fast forward, 10 months or so, I'm keeping onward with that journey, and that's why I'm making this video, to just share why I decided to switch around my routine and start to optimize my health again. It was solely because of how it made me feel. When you're at uni as well, you don't really find many people, unless they're really, into their sport or are performing at a really high level, that also prioritize their health so much. Or at least in my scenario, that was what I find. Often, I think, is the case that once you start to dig into the whole of the whole fitness, you sort of expand out into the self-help and how to just improve yourself and become a better, well-rounded person. I watched a podcast, and an idea from there that stuck with me and I wanted to discuss slightly was the fact that a nihilistic approach to why people choose to be fit is to delay death. Now that sounds really dark and sad, but I did think about it, and I'm aware that is pretty nihilistic to think about things in that sort of way, but I think there's more to fitness than just delaying death. I think the satisfaction, the dopamine spikes that you get from fitness is something that can last forever. You can be 85 years old and still go on a walk and still feel great afterwards, whereas most other sources of dopamine in your life will probably ruin you completely if you were that old. And in case you need some examples, that could be drinking, smoking, doing drugs, or whatever else spikes your dopamine. I'm going back to the whole discussion around falling in love with exercise, and actually wanting to revolve my whole life around trying to stay fit and optimize my health just because I find it fun, and not because I think I'm better than anyone else or for a poor reason. My idea with fitness is not to try and live longer. Well, it kind of is a byproduct of what I'm going to say, is that actually the reason I try to optimize my health is so that I could be a 90-year-old, but with a 50-year-old's heart, or with a 50-year-old's body, just because I've leveled up and worked hard to maintain my physical age. You know how on some watches it will give you your actual age and then your fitness age. So if you're around 90, I want to have a fitness age that is of a 50-year-old. And so this sort of neglects the argument of why do you want to live long when you're old. You'll just be sad and you'd be dependent on everyone, and there'll be nothing to do, you won't be able to move, everything will be in pain. But I sort of think about it in a different light. I think that when I'm 90, I want to have a 50-year-old's body. And sure, as a 50-year-old, I'm sure my parents can attest to this, there are some pains and there are some niggles here and there, but on the whole, you are pretty fit and you can do what you want. I'm going to move on to a different point now about how it's important to not just optimize one stream of health and fitness, but also branch out so you're benefiting all the aspects that come into the fitness sort of area. So what I mean about the area of fitness and the different aspects, I'm talking about your endurance and your strength and size and aesthetics. So that sort of is the most common aspects of fitness that people tend to think about. But then also there's speed, there's anaerobic capacity, i.e. What's your VO2 max, how high is your maximal heart rate, and if it's high enough for your age, etc. And then the final one is muscular endurance as well. These sort of terms became very familiar with me because of rowing, and because rowing is such a specific sport whereby you need so many different aspects of your fitness to be really fully optimized compared to most sports, in my opinion. So with rowing, you would need power, endurance, you need stamina, you need strength. And so I find that most sports in general would require maybe one or two of those, and not all of the ones that rowing did. And so when I used to row, the rowing training schedule was a lot, but then also we would optimize so many different aspects of our health that overall you just feel so unbelievably fit, and things. I just look back thinking, wow, it was really, really great for me. There was a study I was recently reading about where there were these Swedish skiers that were Olympians back in the 50s. Am I getting my maths right? Yeah, so they'll be around 90 now. And so they've been keeping up with skiing, so keeping up with doing some sort of endurance work or long duration steady state work. They compared these ex-Olympic skiers with regular 90-year-olds that, you know, in general wouldn't really do anything active, although living to 90, I'm sure they have had pretty active and stayed relatively healthy. They compared these two bunches of people with the physical skiers and the ones that didn't move too much. And what was really cool to see was that, of course, the skiers did have amazing endurance for their age, amazing fitness and amazing endurance. However, their strength was completely neglected. So they never lifted a weight. They hadn't lifted a weight in 50 years or something. And so when they compared these two types, these two groups of people, they found that even the strength of the 90-year-olds that didn't do any exercise was as good as the skiers. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do any endurance. I'm saying that having a balance of both is what is optimal and what is best for your body. And some people may wonder, why would you need to train strength, or why would you need the use of being explosive or powerful later in life? Like, what's the point? An example that I actually told my mum about recently was, let's say you were to trip over, and the majority of people past the age of 50 that don't go to the gym, they would just fall, and they would fall straight down or fall on their face or whatever, and that becomes really dangerous the older you get. And training strength actually allows your muscles to reflex and move fast enough so that you're able to catch yourself before you fall, or even if you do fall, if you have been training arms, you're able to withstand the fall and minimize the amount of damage you do to yourself. So this is just one example of why training strength, especially as an elderly person, is as crucial as it is to training endurance and their heart. I hope that my story and the case study that I talked about sort of gives you an idea of what I mean about optimizing your health, and why, in fact, optimizing your health shouldn't feel like a chore. It should feel like something amazing, or at least that's how I feel. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm going to be doing a video soon on my experience with the university and fitting this sort of philosophy around the uni life in the UK. I'm a student at UCL, just first year, and so I might talk about my experiences with university and how it's shaping me. I find on YouTube often there are many inexperienced people trying to act like gurus, and I really don't want to sound like that. I want to come across as a guide rather than a guru. I don't want to tell you what you should be doing, but maybe through listening to my experiences and maybe the way I think about things in my head, some things might click and resonate with you, as I feel like for someone starting out at university or just a young person in general, it can be quite daunting and tricky figuring out what you want to do and what you enjoy. Please do like the video and subscribe. It'll be really cool to have a little following of like-minded people, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks.